Welcome back, everybody. Been a while since I've done a video. I think I promised this one like 2 or 3 weeks ago when I got back from PittRace. At the time, I'd posted one of the sessions that had my best lap of the event. That was my first trip to PittRace. Had a really good time. But, frankly, I really didn't spend much time actually looking at data. And so, well, I got a 151. That was good progress. I knew other people had turned 148s. In particular, a friend of mine who was there had turned to 148 and was nice enough to actually loan me his data, but I just didn't look at it until after the event. So I thought we'd kind of go through it together, see where he picked up, a solid 3 seconds on me. And it's also a good illustration of how, frankly, just a couple of little things make a big difference in lap time. For comparison purposes, this is my Monster GS, the heavily modified car with the sequential and the big motor and all the horsepower. Whereas my friend is running a pretty much stock C7 Z06. Both of us were on Pirellis. He also has a lot more experience on this track and is just a really good driver. So let's go ahead and kind of pick apart the lap. So my friend is in red and I'm the blue line on the chart. Just to orient ourselves, this is kind of my default go-to to go figure out how I can find time. This top band is the accelerator. Next band is the brake. This is your speed trace. This is where, frankly, we're going to spend a lot of time. And then this section right here is actually the derivative of the time difference between the laps. I like to look at this because for me, it really just highlights where you're gaining and losing time. I know that if the blue line is below the red line, I'm gaining time on the reference lap. If the blue line's above the red line, I'm losing time. So I can very quickly hone in on these big sections where clearly I'm losing a lot of time. So let's start, kind of right off the bat, coming down the front straight at PittRace. Again, here you see the horsepower really works to my advantage. Foot to the floor. I've got a pretty decent speed difference here. About 3 miles an hour, I guess. So not a huge difference, but still, I probably came off the final turn worse than he did, but still managed to gain 3 miles an hour by the end of it. You can see braking for turn one. I actually started lifting a little earlier, braking through turn one. I'm actually carrying a little bit more speed through the brake zone. And you can see by the time we get to what for him and for me should be the apex of turn one, I've actually got a slight time gap. So I'm a little bit faster at that point, 0.17 seconds. And that was really just that time on the straight and that time in the brake zone. But right off the bat here, you can see something, the min speed for my friend and the time at which, or the place at which he starts getting authoritatively back to the gas is much earlier. So what you see is a huge speed delta going through turn one. Whereas I'm coasting, basically for this segment of track here, he's already back on the throttle. And in fact, back above 50% throttle and has, a 15, 16 mile an hour speed delta. So this little section here of just getting back to throttle sooner, not overslowing as much for turn one, really net a big time difference. So an easy way to kind of quantify that is you kind of click at the start of this section, hit the R key in Pi Toolbox, then click the end of it. And what it does, it just highlights that section. So now I can look over here and I can see the delta time was 0.64 seconds. So 6.5 tenths just in how we got through turn one. So that's a good indication of where there's a lot of time and it may not be obvious just out there pounding around that's the fact. As you can see, going down that run from 1 to 2 up over the crest, he had a much bigger lift kind of going over the hill. Frankly, I'm going a lot slower. I have a wing. He's just got the Z06 stage 3 spoiler. So, I was able to kind of stay in it a little more, but I also had a lot more power, and kind of by the end of the straightaway, I've been able to, get 3 or 4 miles an hour on them, but then I start lifting much earlier. I'll tell you, I really struggled for the brake zone for turn 3 here. It's uphill, it's blind, trying to figure out where you're supposed to brake and find the corner was something I was working on all weekend. But again, you can see here's another big chunk of time right down here. So basically waiting later to brake, and then this speed delta down through that brake zone again. So you've got 12 miles an hour difference, 11 miles an hour, 12 miles an hour. This section right in here, just the braking for turn 3 is, well, it's a little bit past turn in, but that section right there is another half second. So we're already, 1.1 seconds is made up just in the first 3 turns. Going through, kind of that chute, I guess that's what, kind of 3 to 4. Again, you can see he's given a little more throttle through here. I'm kind of modulating, just trying to figure out what the car is going to do. Gains a little bit more time through here. We're fairly consistent down the hill. Fairly consistent down the bottom of the hill. And then coming out, again, I'm really struggling to put power down in the car. He's able to get up to full throttle much sooner and much more authoritatively. So at that point, there's now a 3 mile an hour speed difference. And, until the horsepower kicks in and I get the power down, there is a time where he's going faster, he's gaining time. So again, we'll just take a look at that little section right here. And over here, again, it's another 0.2. So again, I got the horsepower. Once I get it down, I can gain a little bit of a speed difference. You can see up here, I have a horrible habit where I kind of lose confidence and start trailing off the gas earlier as opposed to being authoritative, full throttle until it's time to lift and time to brake. He does a much cleaner job of basically making that transition in the brake zone here for, I guess that's turn 7. Coming through this infield section, again, what do we see? I'm really overslowing the car, at least through the first couple corners. He slows more for this left-hander, but then is able to get a lot more throttle down, running from 8 to 9. That gives him another big speed boost. So, if you just kind of look at this S's section, or really just all the way through here, what's the time delta? Well, it's 0.8. So that section of, the left, right, kind of the infield section, or not infield, but kind of that inner set of S's, again, another 0.8 just by being able to use more throttle, and rolling more speed in the corner. So what are we up to now? That's probably 2 seconds of it right there. Again, we take the run. This is running up to turn 11. Again, a lot more throttle. Our speeds are actually fairly consistent. Actually carrying a little more speed up across this as you go across these curbs here. But then look at the throttle and look at the speed kind of on that last straight part heading into turn 12. Big difference. At this point, it's a, 17 mile an hour speed difference before braking for turn 12. So if I had taken the effort to really get the car straightened up, get the throttle down, accelerated through what feels like a very short section of track, from a time perspective, it's worth, let's call it 4.5. Okay, that's also including turning into the right-hander there. Looking at the rest, there's, again, more speed running up the hill, more throttle. Again, same song, second verse. Again, the horsepower here, even though I'm giving it less throttle, I am able to get a little of a speed differential. And here's another place. This left-hand kink. Let's actually look at the orientation of the cars. As you can see, I'm not quite as far right as he is. I actually struggled to get lined up on that fast left-hand kink, so I wasn't lifting as much. You see how much bigger my lift was in that kink as compared to him. But again, I kind of got the power down and was able to keep going again. Here's another area. Again, that final right-hand kink. He stays in the throttle much longer. I frankly got pretty chickened out going into that high-speed kink at a buck 40, lift really early, coast through there, whereas he stays in the throttle. And, as we're getting ready to approach that, he's got a good, 5-6 miles an hour on me. So there we are going through the kink, the right-hand kink. Again, getting back to throttle, getting back to full throttle on that short little straight, being able to put the hammer down and gain some speed again. That little blip there was worth, let's look at that one again real quick. 700, so almost a tenth. Still, it was something. And then coming through the final corner here, higher min speed, throttle sooner, full throttle sooner. And again, there's a speed differential until the horsepower kind of kicks in and I'm able to do a little bit better, except for, again, I kind of lift a lot going through that left-hand kink. So clearly I need to work on my getting back to throttle sooner, getting back to more throttle sooner. It's frankly a big confidence thing, particularly on a new track with a lot of high-speed sweepers. As you might have seen in the video, the car was a little bit, definitely a little bit loose. So every racer should be always blames the equipment. So I guess I'm going to blame the equipment. But I think in reality, it was my driving. So I hope you all found that helpful. Again, no major shocking things here other than just how much time you can lose by making small changes or not doing small things. Hope you find it helpful. Leave any questions in the comments. Big thanks to my friend for providing the data. Hopefully he'll jump in and let me know if there's anything else you want to see. Thanks.